May started quiet, the kind of quiet you don't trust at first. Like something's waiting just out of view, ready to yank you back in. But nothing came. No new voicemails, no emergency texts, not even a, "Can you talk from my mom?" For the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing. I was just living. The GoFundMe for the house was still up. I checked it once out of curiosity, maybe twice. $740, that's where it stalled out. No new donations, no big rescue. Just a threadbare comment section full of neighbors from the old block, and my mom's coworkers saying things like, "We're praying for you and hang in there." No one asked why Leo wasn't helping. No one asked why the 23-year-old with a Waller $200 gaming chair and $300 sneakers wasn't selling his things. No one asked about me either, not once. It was like I had been erased, and weirdly I was okay with that, because sometimes peace doesn't come from being remembered. It comes from finally letting go of the version of yourself that always needed to be seen. That weekend, Amanda and I went back to the lake house. No cousins, no big invite list, just us. She packed books, I packed charcoal and stakes. We brought extra socks, a beat-up deck of cards, and exactly 0 plans. We swam when the sun came out, sat in silence when it didn't, played Go Fish like it was a real competition. And at night, we sat by the fire, sharing a blanket and laughing about absolutely nothing. On Saturday night, as the stars came out and the wind picked up, Amanda looked at me and asked a question I hadn't heard in a while. "Do you miss them?" This time, I didn't need to think. I miss who I thought they were. I miss what I wanted them to be, but not who they actually are. Not who they showed me over and over they've chosen to be. She nodded. Just once. No need to unpack it. Some truths don't need a discussion. They just need room to breathe. After she went to bed, I stayed by the fire. Let the heat warm my legs. Let the silence wrap around me. Then I pulled out my phone. Opened the last few saved threads from back when I still believed things might turn around. One from my mom, one from Leo. A few generic family messages from birthdays and holidays that had all blurred together. And I deleted them, all of them. Every message. Every saved contact, every thread I'd once scrolled through at 3 a.m., hoping I'd missed something, some small apology, some hidden affection. Gone. Not because I was angry, but because I finally knew. I wasn't waiting anymore. The next week, Amanda's mom invited us over for lunch. Just a regular Sunday. Sandwiches and lemonade in the backyard. Midway through, she disappeared inside. A few minutes later, she came back with a small box, no wrapping, no note, just a plain cardboard square. "We found this while cleaning the attic," she said. "Thought you might want it." Inside was a Polaroid. Me and Amanda, our first Thanksgiving together. I was caught mid-bite holding a paper plate piled high with stuffing and pie. Amanda was next to me, laughing so hard her eyes were nearly closed. I barely remembered it being taken. Amanda's mom smiled. "We kept it," she said, "because that was the day we realized you fit in." I didn't say anything for a moment, because I felt it in my chest before I could form words. Not because of the picture, but because someone took the time to remember, to notice a moment I didn't even think mattered and hold on to it like proof that I did. I put the box on the shelf in our living room, right next to the little succulent Amanda insists isn't dead. It sits there now, quiet, simple. A reminder that some families find you. Not with promises, not with guilt, but with presence, with effort, with love that doesn't need a receipt. A few days later, I got one last message, this time from my mom. No hello, no update, just one line. "Jake's been really down. Our TV finally broke. $400 would be enough, please." I stared at it for a while, not because I was tempted, but because I realized she still didn't get it, still thought money was the bridge back, still thought love was something you could invoice. So I sent her one caption, "Tell Jake to pick up a book." No reply, not even a read receipt. And that was it. That was the last message I ever got from any of them. Summer rolled in soft. Amanda started leaving grocery lists with doodles. I started looking forward to errands. Her dad asked me to help him build a workbench in the garage. Her little cousin asked if I'd teach him to parallel park. Her family never asked about mine. They didn't need the story. They just gave me space and filled it with kindness. There's no dramatic ending here. No big confrontation. No surprise phone call with a tearful apology. Just life, moving forward, slowly, steadily. The kind you build, not beg for. Sometimes I still think about that Christmas. Not in the way I used to. Not with anger or pain, but like someone remembering a road they used to take and finally found a better one. There's a kind of healing that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with music or fireworks. It just grows quietly in the background until one day you look around and realize you're no longer waiting for the apology that never came. You're no longer carrying the version of yourself who begged for love with your wallet. You're just here, whole, undiscounted, chosen, not for what you give, but for who you stayed long enough to become. The day after Elise left, the silence in my house felt different. Not lonely, not cold, just clean. It was like the air finally had room to breathe. No tension pressing on my chest. No fake smiles or tight-lipped dinners where every word felt like a test. For the first time in a long time, my home actually felt like mine. But that peace didn't last long. By Tuesday, the narrative had shifted. It started with the text from Travis. "Yo man, you gonna fix this? People are freaking out. Aunt Denise is losing it." Then one from Denise herself. "You ungrateful little brat, after everything we've done for you, disgusting." That one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the irony was too rich. I'd practically bankrolled half the people in that room at one point or another, and now they were acting like I'd stolen from them. The best one came from my Uncle Ray. "Your dad's heart can't take this kind of drama. Be a man and apologize." Be a man, classic Ray. This was the same man who once called me crying at midnight because he accidentally co-signed a loan for his girlfriend and needed $5,000 to keep his lights on. I sent the money and never saw a dime back. But sure, I'm the one who needs to man up. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't have to. My silence said enough. Then Thursday rolled around, and with it my father. He didn't call, didn't text, just showed up. I was in the garage organizing old storage bins when I heard his boots on the gravel. Slow, heavy steps like he was dragging the weight of his own pride behind him. I turned just as he reached the doorway. He looked older than I remembered, like the past week had weathered him in fast forward. "Matthew," he said, voice rough, "we need to talk." I wiped my hands on a rag and leaned against the workbench. "Do we?" He sighed. "Your mother's been crying every day. She barely eats. She says she doesn't recognize you anymore." I tilted my head. "That's funny. I could have said the same about both of you last weekend." He didn't like that. His jaw tensed, and for a second I saw the man who used to ground me for talking back whenever I told the truth too plainly. "You embarrassed us, son, in front of the whole family. You let them humiliate me at a dinner I paid for, in a room I booked, and you didn't say a damn word." He looked away, picked at a splinter on the doorframe. "It wasn't meant to go like that." But it did. Because no one there respects me. They just expect me. That shut him up. "I've been the safety net for this family for years," I continued. "Every bounced check, every surprise pregnancy, every failed business. You didn't mind when my money paid for Denise's new fridge or Travis's DUI lawyer. But the second I ask for a little basic respect, I'm a freeloader." He took a deep breath. They were joking. No, they were saying the quiet part out loud. The silence between us thickened like smoke in a room with no windows. He didn't argue. He didn't apologize either. Instead, he said, "Look, your mother wants this cruise. It was gonna be the first real vacation in 10 years. Can't you just—" "No." He blinked. "No," I said again, this time firmer. "You don't get to insult the hand that feeds you and still expect dessert." His face hardened. "You think you're better than us now?" "No, I think I finally see you clearly." He didn't say anything after that. Just turned and walked back down the driveway, shoulders tight, steps heavier than before. I didn't watch him leave. I went back to sorting boxes. One of them had a bunch of old photos in it, birthdays, cookouts, family reunions. And in every single one, I looked like I was standing just a little outside the frame. Like I didn't belong, but was trying to. Not anymore. That weekend, Aunt Denise showed up at my office. I should have locked the front door, but she came in like she owned the place, clicking heels, oversized purse, and enough perfume to knock out a small child. "You've made your point," she said, not even waiting for me to offer a seat. "Have I?" She scowled. "You're acting like a child, throwing tantrums, canceling vacations. You've embarrassed this family." I leaned back in my chair, steepling my fingers. "No, I just stopped financing the circus." "Oh, give me a break. You always were sensitive." There it was. The same tone she used when I was 8 and crying because no one came to my school recital. The same look she gave me when I showed up to Thanksgiving with my divorce papers and she told me to get over it. I stared at her calm and quiet, letting her keep digging. "Look, she said after a beat. "The cruise is non-refundable. You're just wasting money now." "Not wasted," I said, "invested in my peace." Her nostrils flared. "This family took care of you." "No," I said. "I took care of this family, and you took advantage of that. For years." "Don't you dare turn this on us," she snapped, "after all we've done." "I'm not turning anything. I'm just finally done playing dumb." I stood, walked over to the door, and held it open. "We're finished here." She glared, grabbed her purse like she was yanking it away from an infection, and stormed out. As the door shut behind her, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Not fear, not sadness, just relief. Like someone finally turned the volume down on a noise I'd lived with so long I forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. The next few days passed like a movie on mute. Just the occasional buzz from my phone and the low hum of background thoughts I didn't want to entertain. I wasn't used to the quiet. I'd spent years living in their chaos. Texts about bounced checks, late-night calls begging for money, quick favors that turned into weeks of unpaid errands. It had become the background noise of my life, like a leaky faucet I learned to ignore. But when I finally shut the valve, the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loud in a different way, loud with all the things they weren't saying. The guilt campaign didn't stop, it just changed tactics. They couldn't reach me through my phone, so they started circling through other people. My friend Connor sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post. It was Aunt Denise again. Some people forget who was there for them when they were nothing. Family means nothing to the selfish. Shameful. Below it, 47 likes, mostly cousins who hadn't spoken to me since high school. A few comments too. One from my uncle's wife that said, "The nerve of some people, SMH." Another from Travis's girlfriend, "Not surprised TBH, he always thought he was too good for us." "Too good I paid for your boyfriend's rehab, Chloe, but sure." I didn't respond. I wasn't going to argue with ghosts of people I'd already buried emotionally. Instead, I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and did something I'd been avoiding for years. I pulled up my estate documents. When my business had finally turned a corner 5 years ago, I set up a trust. Not flashy, not massive, but enough to leave behind something meaningful. At the time, I listed my parents as primary beneficiaries. Elise's kids were on there too, earmarked for college funds. There was even a clause for Travis in case his startup actually launched. I looked at those names now, and all I could think was they wouldn't do the same for me. So I did what I should have done a long time ago. One by one, I deleted them all, and in their place, I added 3 new recipients, an organization for scholarships, a nonprofit for single fathers, and a legal aid fund that helped people escape abusive family situations. It felt like flipping a switch in a dark room, not just to see clearly, but to stop being afraid of what was lurking in the corners. I closed the file and leaned back, heart pounding in that strange way when you do something that's both freeing and final. It wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. 2 days later, I heard the last voice I ever expected. It was a voicemail from my mom. She sounded tired, not sad, not angry, just worn down in a way I couldn't place. "Matthew, I don't know what happened. I don't understand why you're doing this, but your father's not himself lately. I haven't seen him like this since his brother passed. Please, please call me back. We miss you. We're still your family." Still your family. As if that word family was a magic spell that could undo years of disrespect and manipulation. I played it twice, then I deleted it. Because I realized something, they only miss me when they need something. When I'm giving, covering, carrying. Not when I'm hurting, not when I'm pulling back, not when I finally say no. They don't miss me. They miss the version of me that served them. Then Sunday came, and with it the knock. I opened the door, and there they were. My parents, standing on my porch like characters from a dream I'd been trying to wake up from for years. My mom clutched a purse like it was a shield. My dad looked down at his shoes, hands shoved deep in the pockets of a jacket I hadn't seen him wear since I was a teenager. Neither of them spoke right away. They just looked unsure. As if this house, this version of me, was unfamiliar territory. "Can we come in?" my mom asked, her voice brittle. I let them. Not because I owed them anything, but because I wanted closure on my terms. They sat stiffly on the couch like guests in a hotel lobby. I stayed standing, leaning against the kitchen island. "We're not here to fight," my dad said first. "We're worried," my mom added. "You've changed Matthew." "I've stopped being quiet," I replied. "That's not the same thing." They exchanged a look the kind couples share when they're trying to keep a united front. My father cleared his throat. This whole situation, it's gotten out of hand. The dinner, the cruise, the fallout with your cousins. You mean the fallout where I stopped letting them use me? No one's trying to use you, my mom said too quickly. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Because I made one move to set a boundary, and suddenly I'm selfish. Suddenly I'm bitter. That dinner wasn't a favor to me. It was for you, for the family. And what did I get mocked? Laughed at. Treated like a stranger at a table I paid for. Silence. Then my mom's voice soft. I didn't know they said those things. But you didn't stop them either. That landed. She looked down at her hands. My dad shifted uncomfortably. You don't understand how hard this is for us, he said. We raised you. We gave you everything we had. You gave me the tools to build a life you wanted me to share only when it benefited you. He frowned. That's not fair. No, I said. What's not fair is being the dependable one, the fixer, the safety net, and still being treated like a second-class citizen. I watched them both shrink a little, like the truth was too heavy to hold upright. My mom reached into her purse, pulled out a photo. It was me, age 10, standing on a pier next to my dad, holding a fishing rod twice my size, grinning with all the confidence in the world. Your dad still keeps this in his wallet, she said. He shows it to the guys at the garage. I stared at it. That kid looked happy. Whole. Like he hadn't yet learned that some families only clap when you're performing. I handed it back. Tell him to keep it. I'm not that boy anymore. They stayed for another few minutes, said things that sounded like apologies, but didn't feel like them, made gestures that hinted at reconciliation, but avoided real accountability. When they left, they hugged me. I didn't hug back. And when the door closed behind them, I didn't cry. I didn't crumble. I just stood there, still, clear, whole. That night I went out back, sat on the porch, drink in hand, watching the sky shift from blue to gold to indigo. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting on their call, their approval, or their version of what family means. I had my own, me. And for now, that was enough. I thought that porch sunset would be the ending, that after they left my doorstep clutching nostalgia like it was some form of redemption, things would go still, like the storm had passed. But families like mine don't retreat, they regroup. The quiet wasn't peace, it was strategy. And it didn't take long for the next wave to hit. It started subtle. Elise tagged me in an old birthday photo on Instagram. One of the rare times I looked genuinely happy. No caption, no context, just the photo. Then the calls started again. Not from her, but from people around her. My godfather, an old cousin I hadn't seen since Grandma's funeral. Even a former teacher I suspected she'd reached out to. They all carried the same message. Talk to your family, it's gone too far. What no one seemed to realize was that this wasn't about a dinner, or a cruise, or even the years of silent transactions and thankless rescues. This was about identity, about how long I let myself play the role they wrote for me, provider, fixer, invisible, and how I had finally walked off the stage. But that doesn't go over well when the show depends on you. The group chat I left, it didn't die quietly either. Apparently, Denise started a new one, real family only. Connor sent me a screenshot. It was laughable. Memes, passive quotes about ungrateful people, pictures of meals without me at the table like my absence somehow made the roast taste better. But the thing that hit me wasn't the jabs. It was how fast they rewrote the story. Suddenly, I was unstable going through something, or my personal favorite, jealous. Jealous. As if I hadn't spent years silently funding the very lives they now use to paint themselves as victims. As if every call for help hadn't come with a version of, "You've always had it easier than us." That line always stuck with me. Easy. Like struggling through a divorce wasn't hard. Like building a business from scratch didn't come with nights I couldn't sleep and days I couldn't eat. Like the money they needed didn't cost me pieces of myself. They didn't want the truth. They wanted the version of me that was convenient. And now that I had stepped out of frame, they were scrambling to fill the silence with a story that kept them clean. Then came the moment I knew things had shifted for good. I was at the coffee shop near my office corner table, laptop open, finishing edits on a new proposal when I saw him. Travis. He spotted me before I could look away. I half expected him to ignore me, maybe walk by like we were strangers. But instead, he walked straight up. "Hey," he said, voice low. I didn't answer. He sat down without asking. I didn't know you worked around here. I own the building, I replied flatly. He blinked. Right. A long pause stretched between us, filled only by the hiss of the espresso machine and the soft murmur of nearby conversations. Then look about that night. I was out of line. Denise, too. Everyone was. I waited. I didn't mean it the way it sounded, he continued, fumbling. You know how family is. People talk. They talked, I said, because they knew I wouldn't talk back. That shut him up. He looked down at the table, his bravado slipping. Everything's falling apart, he said after a while. Dad's landscaping business finally closed. Elise is barely keeping it together. Your parents, I think this broke them more than you realize. I leaned back staring at him, not angry, just tired. And yet none of you reached out until the money dried up. Travis flinched like I'd slapped him. That's not true, isn't it? His lips parted like he wanted to argue, but there was nothing to say. You all saw me as a resource, I said, not a person. A walking bailout, a safety net. And the second I stopped stretching to catch you, you acted like I was selfish for not breaking. He looked away. I'm not here for an apology, I added. I'm here for reality. If you want to be in my life, show me you know the difference. He nodded almost imperceptibly, then stood. I hope one day you'll come back. I'm not gone, I said, turning back to my laptop. I'm just no longer available to be used. He left quietly. And I felt lighter. That night I lay awake thinking about the word family. How we're told it's unconditional, permanent, forgiving. But no one tells you what to do when those very people are the ones draining you dry. No one tells you how to walk away from the ones who raised you without feeling like you're betraying your own blood. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Sometimes blood is just biology, and real family, the kind that sees you, respects you, values you, that kind is earned. A week passed. The text slowed. The guilt post faded. The campaign to win me back turned into quiet frustration. And then something happened that felt different. Elise sent a message, just a plain text, no emojis, no passive aggression, just words. I've been thinking about what you said. I don't know if we can fix it, but if you ever want to talk, I'm here. No strings. I stared at the message for a long time, not because I didn't believe her, but because I didn't know if I wanted to believe her. Sometimes when people finally acknowledge the damage they've done, it doesn't come with healing, just a reminder of how long they left you hurting. I didn't respond. Not yet, because real healing happens on your own time, not theirs. And for the first time in years, I wasn't rushing back to make them comfortable. I didn't answer Elise's message, not because I was angry, but because silence had become my language of clarity. And in that silence, I started noticing how much space opened up when you stopped living for everyone else. No more panicked midnight calls, no guilt-soaked birthdays where I paid for cake and still got side-eyed. No awkward family functions where love was measured in what I brought, not who I was. It was quiet now, and in that stillness, I started remembering who I used to be before I was everyone's crutch. Before I was the fixer. Before I was the guy who never said no. 2 weeks passed, and for the first time in years, my life felt sustainable. I started reading again, real books, not finance blogs or legal contracts. I picked up jogging. Nothing extreme. Just enough to feel the cold air press against my chest and remind me that I had lungs and a heart and a body that wasn't just made to carry other people's weight. I even fixed the old workbench in the garage, something I'd been meaning to do for 5 years. It was strange how healing crept in like that. Not in fireworks, but in repairs, tiny, quiet restorations of the self. Then one Saturday morning, I heard a knock. Not aggressive, just 3 soft taps. I opened the door to find my mother. No warning, no speech, just her. She stood there in a long cardigan, hands curled around a paper bag, eyes unsure. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated. Then I stepped aside. She walked in like someone entering a childhood home that wasn't hers anymore, her gaze taking in the clean counters, the quiet light through the windows, the space that didn't hold her voice anymore. She sat down at the kitchen table and placed the bag in front of her. "Banana bread," she said softly, "your favorite." I sat across from her but didn't touch it. There was a long pause, not heavy, just real. "You look well," she said. "I am," I replied. She nodded. "I owe you a lot of apologies," she started. "More than I can list, but I also know I'm late, and maybe that makes them worthless." I didn't respond, I just listened. She continued. I always thought if we kept the family together, everything else would work out. That if we just pretended things were okay, they eventually would be." She paused. "But you were right, Matthew. We took you for granted." Her voice cracked slightly, but she didn't cry. It wasn't performative, just human. "I don't know how to fix it," she said. "I don't expect you to let me. I just didn't want to leave it unsaid." I looked at her, really looked. Not at the woman who had stood by while others cut me down. Not at the mother who'd failed to defend me at that dinner. But at the person in front of me, raw, a little scared, trying. And I realized something. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be heard. "I'm not angry anymore," I said finally. "I'm just done pretending that love makes up for disrespect." She nodded, slowly, like someone learning a new language after a lifetime of mispronunciations. "I can live with that," she said quietly. She stood, left the banana bread on the table, and walked to the door. Just before she opened it, she turned back. "You were never the problem," she said. And then she left. I didn't eat the bread, but I didn't throw it away either. I left it on the counter next to a note I scribbled that night. "Love without action is just noise." The next few days were calm, until I got a text from Elise. This time it wasn't a message. It was a screenshot. An eviction notice from her landlord, followed by her own words, "I'm not asking for money. I just didn't know who else to tell." And for the first time since that awful dinner, I didn't feel defensive. I felt conflicted, because she wasn't asking for a bailout. She was trying to tell me something had broken, and not just in her lease. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called her. She picked up immediately. "Hey," she said, her voice quiet. "You didn't have to?" I know I interrupted, but I wanted to. There was a pause, then she exhaled, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not having your back when it counted. For letting them say those things. For treating you like a bank account instead of a brother." I let the silence stretch, not to punish her, but because it took me that long to believe her. "I'm not here to solve your problems anymore," I said gently. "But I'll listen. If you ever need someone who tells the truth." "I'd like that," she whispered. It wasn't a reconciliation. It was a beginning, and that mattered more. Later that week, I got a letter. Not a text, not an email. A real letter from my father. His handwriting hadn't changed since I was a kid. Sturdy, intentional. Written like someone who believed the act of writing could still carry weight. It was short. No excuses. Just 5 lines. "I watched you walk away and thought I lost a son. But I see now that you were walking towards something better. I don't blame you. I'm just sorry it took this long to understand. Your mother told me what you said. She was right to go first." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same drawer as the trust documents I'd rewritten. It didn't change everything, but it changed enough. That Sunday, I visited the beach alone. The same one where I used to go as a teenager when home felt too crowded, too loud, too conditional. I sat on the sand with a thermos of coffee, watching the tide crawl in and out, steady and quiet. And I realized something I hadn't dared admit out loud. Forgiveness doesn't mean opening the door again. Sometimes it just means letting go of the anger and locking the door behind you for good. I didn't know what would happen next. Whether the distance would shrink or grow, whether my family would rebuild trust or just memory. But I knew one thing, I wasn't lost anymore. I had chosen stillness, and in that stillness, I had finally found myself. Spring settled into the edges of the city like a secret. Not loud or dramatic, just warmer sun through the window trees, blooming with quiet defiance and morning air that didn't bite anymore. And in the same way the season shifted, so did everything else. Not overnight, not with fanfare. Just slowly, almost imperceptibly, until I realized the weight I'd been carrying was gone. Or maybe I'd finally stopped picking it up. I didn't go back to the old group chat, didn't ask about the cruise, didn't reinsert myself into birthday dinners or family reunions. But I also didn't burn anything down. The anger had cooled into something steadier clarity. I wasn't punishing them anymore. I was protecting me. One morning, I found myself walking past a bookstore near my office. I hadn't been inside in years. I used to love bookstores. That quiet buzz of pages, the scent of ink and dust, the calm curiosity of people browsing without urgency. It reminded me of a version of myself I hadn't visited in a long time. So I went in. I bought a journal. Not because I had something profound to say, but because I needed space that didn't ask anything from me. That night, I wrote one line on the first page. "You don't owe people your piece just because they share your name." I left the rest blank. That one sentence was enough for now. A month passed. The texts thinned out. The gossip stopped echoing. Some cousins blocked me. Some sent awkward half-apologies. Others just faded into the background like side characters whose storylines were quietly retired. And honestly, that was fine. You don't need a dramatic goodbye to close a chapter. Sometimes you just stop turning the page. Elise called me one evening. Her voice sounded different, lighter, like someone who'd stopped performing and started breathing. We talked about nothing important. Kids, whether old songs we used to dance to in the kitchen when we were too young to know resentment. Then she asked, "Do you think we'll ever all be in the same room again?" I thought for a moment. Maybe, I said. But if we are, it'll have to be a room where we all stand on equal ground. She didn't argue, just sighed. Fair. It wasn't closure, but it was real, and that was enough. Around that same time, I got an email from a nonprofit I'd added to my will. They wanted to meet. I expected a quick discussion, logistics, paperwork, but what I got was something else entirely. A small room, a circle of people. Faces that didn't know me but carried pieces of my story. Fathers rebuilding their lives after addiction. Students who'd lost scholarships because of things outside their control. People trying not perfectly, not always successfully, but trying. One of them, a man maybe 10 years younger than me, stood up and said, "I didn't think anyone gave a damn about someone like me." And all I could think was, I do. That night driving home, I realized that legacy isn't just what you leave behind. It's what you start before you go. I didn't tell my family about the trust changes. I didn't need them to know, because this was never about making a statement. It was about making peace with myself, letting go of the years I gave without limits, the apologies I never received, the dinners I paid for and still ate in silence. And more than that, letting go of the version of me who needed their validation to feel worthy. That man is gone now. He didn't die, he just grew up. He stepped out of the waiting room they kept him in and started walking. One night, I found the banana bread still sitting in my freezer. I almost tossed it, but something stopped me. Instead, I took it out, warmed a slice, and sat on the porch with it. It tasted like memories. Not good ones or bad ones, just real ones. My mother's voice humming in the kitchen. My dad cursing when he burned toast. Elise laughing through a mouthful of something too hot. It didn't hurt to remember anymore, because I had new memories now, ones that belonged only to me, and that made the old ones easier to carry. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the lawn, I thought about the last few months. About the dinner, the lobster, the line that was crossed, the silence that followed, and I realized something. It wasn't about punishment. It was about permission. I had finally given myself permission to stop bending, to stop shrinking, to stop bleeding out pieces of myself just to keep everyone else comfortable. I didn't cut them off out of spite. I just stopped giving where there was no reciprocity. Stopped pretending that guilt and love were the same thing. And in doing so, I found something I never thought I would. Myself, whole, unapologetic. Enough. People ask what healing looks like. They expect fire, a scream, a slammed door, but sometimes it's a cup of coffee on a quiet morning, a letter in a drawer, a journal with one sentence. Sometimes healing is simply this, not needing to be invited to feel welcome in your own life, and finally understanding that leaving isn't always walking away. Sometimes it's walking home, too. My parents informed me that the cruise had been canceled. Too costly. The location tag for Caribbean was then visible to me. They left me behind, complete with matching shirts. My sister also texted Renz 3 days later. "Would you please submit your half?" I already did. I said. After that, I walked away from the lease, blocked her number, and canceled the transfer. The group chat was filled with my sisters yelling. I answered the phone when my folks called me at 2 in the morning. My parents took the cruise without me, I discovered. The same manner that disloyalty is now discovered by everyone. My dad was prominently shown on Instagram holding up a pina colada as if he had won the lotto. He was sporting one of his trademark bright red Hawaiian shirts. Beside him, my mother flashed peace signals like she was 20 again while wearing a silly sun hat. In the Caribbean, we're experiencing life to the fullest. Palm trees, sunglasses, and a happy face. Use the hashtag #FamilyTime. Family time. Persuaded that the picture must be antique, I gazed at it for a whole minute. Perhaps a flashback was shared by them. I looked over the comments. Just now, my N made a statement. "You all look fantastic. Savor the sunshine." My cousin wrote "living the dream" and included 3 fire emojis. Then I noticed the tag for the cruise line that we had reserved 6 months prior. 2 days ago, it wasn't a flashback. When my dad contacted, he informed me that the trip to costly Bryan was scheduled. Nowadays, cruises are considered a luxury. Everything has increased, including flights and luggage costs. We simply cannot afford it. Next year, perhaps. I had previously provided them $7,000 over the previous few months to assist cover my half, but they made no mention of it or offer an apology. For what was meant to be a family vacation, $7,000 was spent. In November, my mom made the case that we hadn't done anything together for years, and that time was running out now that Jenna and I were grown-ups. "I want memories," she responded. I trusted her. We made reservations for everything, rooms, flights, excursions, etc. After that, they departed without me. Not only them, Jenna, too. In one of the recordings, she could be seen giggling and drinking from a coconut. She shared something on her tail. It was not intended for me to see. She neglected to take me off of her list of close friends, even though she had kept her stories from me. And there it was, a picture-perfect little tableau of treachery, replete with sunset drinks and steel drums. She texted me that evening as if nothing had occurred. "Can you send your part, red stew?" After staring at it for a long, I started typing. I did it already. I walked away from the lease after opening my banking app, blocking her phone, and canceling the transfer. I remained silent. I simply sat there, listening to the stillness after logging out of everything. The group conversation turned into a battlefield 1 hour later. Jenna began to lose it, screaming in all capitals about how I had let her down, and how I was unkind, selfish, and immature. She seemed not to comprehend my abrupt outbursts of behavior. I remained silent. Then the calls began. Mom first, then Dad, again and again. 2:07 a.m., 2:09 a.m., 2:14 a.m., all of them went to voicemail. In a gloomy, pitiful manner, it was almost humorous. By the time they were halfway through island excursions and shrimp cocktails, they were finally thinking about me. I picture them trying to find out why their son had gone radio quiet while they sat in their little stateroom on the ship, most likely still sporting those pointless identical shirts. I was not finished, and I knew nothing about them. By no means. Exactly 1 week later, they came back from the cruise. Exactly on time. I didn't require notice. Once more, the group conversation heated up. Our aunts and uncles now add a few passive-aggressive comments to Jenny's tantrum-style message. Family should always remain united, and whatever transpired must have been a significant matter. We don't pick sides, though. Traditional motions. None of them wanted to inquire explicitly, but they all knew something had exploded. Around supper time that night, I heard someone knock on my door. It became a doorbell. Then there was a thumping. I opened it after waiting for a few minutes. Both of my parents were present, standing on my doorstep, still slightly burnt, like if I owed them something. My mother immediately jumped in, expressing their surprise and disappointment at my actions. My dad went on to say that it was very improper to just vanish like a child and leave my sister alone with the rent. They didn't inquire about my health. They didn't appear guilty at all. I gave them space to speak. Until they eventually ran out of steam, I remained silent. You took the cruise. Without me, I said, using my funds. All I said was that. My mother gave an eye roll. Like an adolescent, my dad crossed his arms. You don't need us to explain ourselves, he replied. We live it. And rather than giving us that money as an investment, you gave it to us because you wanted to join the trip. My mother stated that it was a present. Before my dad grumbled something about entitlement and turned to go, I just gazed at them without saying anything. I closed the door. I sent my lawyer an email the next morning. We drafted an official notice and letter asking for the restitution of $7,000. We included the timestamps, bank transactions, and even the details of the cruise reservation. When the vacation was initially planned, I was CC'd down. It was frigid, tidy, and professional. We allowed them 2 weeks. They didn't respond. Instead, they sent family members text. My Aunt Melissa texted me to let me know how devastated my mother was. "Are you sure this is the hell you want to die on?" my cousin Mark said to me on Facebook. From an unidentified number my dad called. I didn't answer. His voicemail was left. "Will you actually sue us for more than $7,000, your own parents?" He stated it as though the crime rather than the betrayal was the number. Nor the deception, nor that I had to pay $7,000 to be shut out. I thus brought the complaint. They failed to appear for the initial mediation. They told my uncle that they would not put up with this bullshit, that it was not a legal issue, but rather a familial one. They appeared on the scheduled court date. They appeared irritated rather than apologetic. Irritated, as if I were a waste of their time. I heard nothing from them. The judge was direct. The case was straightforward. The funds had been sent for an unfulfilled purpose, and I was gaslighted and ghosted in lieu of receiving a refund or an explanation. Decision in my favor. Complete payback plus court costs. Then, without waiting for the paperwork, my dad bounded out. Before leaving, my mother held around long enough to give me a fierce look. They seemed unable to accept that I had truly done it, as though I had betrayed them. 2 weeks later, I received the money. That seemed like the end to me. The pictures then began to appear online. Reunion of the family. Everyone is grinning. Once more matching t-shirts. My face was conspicuously missing. No invitation. Not even an SMS message. Their next move had begun. They intended for me to feel excluded. They wanted me to know that they were in charge of the story and that they could still enlist the support of the rest of the family, as if I were the issue. However, I had my own plans. The family pictures appeared all at once as if they had planned it. A picnic with tables arranged with balloons for catered food in a large garden. Once more those dumb bespoke shirts. 2025 family first. Rachel, my third cousin, even came from Phoenix by plane. Everybody was tagged. Everybody but me. Not a single phone call. Not even a message. When individuals want to make a statement, they just post hashtags grins and that phony enthusiasm. I remained silent. Melissa contacted a few days after I watched acting, as though she was unaware of what had transpired, but I didn't respond. "Brian, you ought to have been there. Without you, it wasn't the same." "Your parents look so tired," she said. "I believe that they have been greatly impacted by this entire situation." I ended the call. I also didn't reply to the follow-up SMS. "We miss you" is the caption on the picture of my mom cradling my infant cousin. Return to your family. Fake forgiveness didn't interest me. I wasn't prepared to act as though nothing had occurred because they didn't want to deal with the fallout from their own choices. I so made the decision to start my own plans. I've had my eye on a property near Lake Tahoe for some time. Boats walks, private cabins, breathtaking views, everything. I made a reservation for 5 cabins over the phone and began messaging everyone not my parents or Jenna, uncles, aunts, and relatives of mine who had not chosen a side. Through all of this, several of them had remained silent. However, I was able to read silence, and several people discreetly messaged me following the court case to let me know they understood, but didn't want to become involved. I thus provided them with an activity to participate in. The message was straightforward: we may escape to Tahoe. Delicious folks and delicious meal, no drama. I'm responsible for everything. They answered. Most but not all, more than I anticipated. The group expanded far more quickly than I had anticipated. It turns out that Gina and my parents' performance was boring to many. They were fed up with acting as though their treatment of others was typical. So we left. It was flawless. Nighttime bonfires, paddle boards throughout the daytime hours, stories without guilt trips, and coolers full of beverages. Taylor, my cousin, brought his girlfriend. One of my younger relatives informed me that the weekend was the greatest he had experienced in years on the second night. Halfway through, Jenna discovered the truth. She wrote a nasty message to my cousin Alicia, who took a screenshot and forwarded it to me. "After what he did to Mom and Dad, how could you stand by him?" My parents sent a barrage of irate messages in response. I didn't read them. I just removed the thread. When they discovered that no one would be attending their next little family meal, they must have gone crazy. I've heard that they abruptly canceled, citing a need to rearrange their priorities. That was the last straw. They went nuclear. The whole extended family received a bulk email from my mom, expressing gratitude in a passive-aggressive manner to those who stuck with us throughout a trying period and wishing those who turned away from us return to the principles upon which our family was founded. But in some way, I was the bad guy. But something about Tahoe changed the situation. I had lost my anger, just finished. Then suddenly there was a message, not from Jenna. It came from my grandma, not my parents. 3:12 a.m. when the email arrived. The topic line should only be one line. "Can we have a conversation?" My granny sent it, and I realized right away that it wasn't merely a check-in. She stayed out of family disputes. She was not one of those individuals who feign neutrality while covertly stoking the flames. In fact, even as a child, she was the only person in our family to treat me like an adult. Growing up, her home was always neutral territory. There was no shouting. There were no battles chosen. I took a while to read the message. For over an hour, I gazed at it. Her name somehow reminded me of all the stress I had been under following the lawsuit, the fatigue, the guilt, the part of me that still wanted to be understood for some dumb reason. At last, I opened it. It wasn't long, just her voice, nothing big. It was as clear as hers could be. "I'm not writing to make things better, Brian. I'd rather not tell you who is correct or incorrect. After this is all over, I want you to consider the type of life you want to have. That's my only concern. I cherish you. Always had. Will always. No sides. Simply love." My parents never stated anything as powerful as the last phrase. I gave her a call the next day, asked whether she was welcome to visit. That afternoon, as the traffic buzzed in the background, we sat on my porch and drank coffee. She had no lectures with her. Don't feel guilty. Just inquired about my well-being. I told her everything. Not only about the trip to Tahoe, the lawsuit, or the cruise. I explained to her the accumulation, the years of being the one who could always be counted on, and how my parents would vanish when things were tough and reappear when they needed assistance. The years I covered for Jenna, the justifications I offered, and the fact that I never spoke up when something hurt. She paid attention, listened intently. She gave me a slow nod when I was done. She answered, "You did what you had to do. However, that does not imply that you are finished yet. You were recently released. The difficult phase is about to begin. Choose who will remain in your life and under what circumstances." That stayed with me. Over the course of the following several days, I considered whether I wanted justice, peace, or both. I was unwilling to turn around. Another phony apology or a meal filled with remorse where everyone pretended nothing had occurred was not what I wanted. Either I wanted something genuine or nothing. I thus messaged my folks. Brief, managed, enough. I am no longer seeking an apology. I'm not going to pretend, but I've come to terms with the fact that I won't receive one. Really chat if you want to. I'll pay attention. It's also okay if it's not. However, the game. Stop right here. No response. 3 days later, Jenna texted me. Only the time and date. A barbecue at my folks' place. No invitation. Only the alert. I wanted to know Grandma's opinion. They seem to be trying. Even if they don't know how, she continued. So I went. It was like entering a strange dream when I arrived. As if it were any other Sunday, my dad was at the grill frying burgers. My mother waved as if she hadn't been ignoring all of my messages for the past month. Jenna ignored me and looked right through me. Nobody expressed regret. Rather, we discussed the weather, about employment, concerning the neighbors. My mother once said, "We're glad you came. It has great significance." That was it. All they were prepared to provide was that. And I nodded, even though I knew it was insufficient. I didn't express forgiveness. "I miss you" is not what I said. That's not what I said at all. I simply existed present and unattached. The most peculiar aspect, they pretended that I had returned to them, as if they were waiting on me to correct the situation, as if I needed to prove something. That's when I came to another realization. Since I wasn't the antagonist, and I wasn't finished, I could still reclaim the story, even if I would never be able to achieve what I wanted from them. The barbecue was only a picture opportunity. Although they didn't say it out, it was clear that they need controllable evidence. Evidence that I had changed so they could show the family that suddenly everything was all right, nothing was harmed. The legal action, the treachery, it's all a miscommunication. Pardoned, ignored. Come on, let's eat. However, I departed with a stronger conviction that nothing had changed. They had no desire to start over with me. Simply put, they didn't want to appear like the villains. That's why I was invited back to refine the tale, not to confront the reality. So I vanished once more, this time in silence. It was 2 weeks later. Not even a message. Not from Jenna, not from my father, nor from my mother. No follow-up, no. Thank you for coming, nothing. For them, getting their picture was sufficient. It wasn't for me, though. So I didn't even pretend when Uncle Rick messaged me about the next weekend's family meal. No, I said. No justification. Simply put, no. He told me more by not pushing back than he would have if he had. I noticed Jenna's post that evening. A table full of catered food and another round of flawless grins. Mid-taste wine cups are elevated. She included a caption, "Family always prevails. As usual, subtle." She was unaware that throughout the previous month, half of the individuals seated at that table had previously contacted me in private. Some apologized in private. I was missed in Tahoe, according to others. I wish they had left, inquired about the possibility of a future trip. They were worn out. Of the deed, not of me. I thus invited them. This time, something different. Asheville, North Carolina for a long weekend. I reserved a number of chalets outside the city. A lovely location. Mountain views, peaceful paths, fire pits, and nearby breweries within 10 minutes drive. As previously, I covered the expense. I didn't ask my folks. Gina wasn't invited. I didn't even try to act like it was accessible to everyone. I extended an invitation to everyone who had seen me and hadn't turned away. The ones who had arrived without me having to ask. Nearly all of them responded yes. The images had already begun to circulate by Saturday morning. Hikes in groups and views of the Blue Ridge after sunset. Around the fire we were drinking. No tension, no drama. Just folks having fun together. No show, no digs that are passive-aggressive. No meticulously chosen optics. Although I knew Jenna would see it, I chose not to tag anyone. She continued to follow some of the present cousins. She assembled it quickly, my parents as well. As expected, I received a call from an unfamiliar number on Sunday afternoon. Voicemail. It was my mother. She sounded composed and in control. Said she watched the trip and hoped I was doing well. Then the anticipated part 1 arrived. You want this now, then, a family without us. I didn't respond for several hours. I replied to her email. The truth without venom. I desired a family that was honest with me. Treat me like an outsider and take my money. I wanted truth, not deceit, when I stopped complying. Without you, I won't be starting a family. The version of you that did those things is not in the one I'm creating. Better yet, if you wish to seem as someone else. You're welcome. I'm okay where I am if not. No answer. However, a few days later, I began to hear sounds. Cousins were given little remarks. My folks were upset. No longer about the money, nor even about the litigation. They were angry. They had no control over the story that I hadn't returned, that I hadn't pleaded for forgiveness, and that the family they had previously controlled with quiet and guilt wasn't getting back on track. This time, they were falling behind, and that's worse than losing affection for individuals like them. It didn't satisfy me. This was not retaliation. Not at all. Clarity was the key. Chilly, tidy, everlasting. The bridge wasn't burned by me. I just quit acting like it was mine. The yearly tangle of determining who was hosting, who was not invited this year, where everyone would be, and who was acting like nothing was wrong, arrived with Thanksgiving. My parents usually hosted. The tension in the air was just heavy enough to seem like tradition. Their meal was mediocre, and their house was large. Things were different this year. Word had gotten out about the lawsuit and the picnic in Asheville. Now everyone has their own account of events. I could tell that individuals were conversing. I sensed the change, but I didn't care. Grandmother's time-neutral ground was the source of the invitation. No preferences, no agenda. She was hosting a more intimate event. There is no pressure. Come if you'd like. Have no expectations. I could see she meant it. She did it every time. I promised to be there. I sensed it as soon as I came in. There was a brief silence in the room, long enough to find out who had been anticipating my arrival. A few grinned. Some did not look at each other. My parents were present. Jenna was too. She appeared to have seen a ghost. We didn't speak, not initially. Like strangers at a civil burial, we shuffled past one another. My cousins who had visited Asheville sat with me. We chuckled about the journey, exchanged tales, and loosened plans for a second vacation. It seemed typical, better than usual. My mother then drew me away into the hallway as the evening was coming to a close and everyone was packing up leftovers and saying farewell. There was no drama. She didn't weep. She didn't say sorry. "It's good you came," she remarked. "You remain family. I hope you are aware of that." It sounded more like a declaration than an offer. My father appeared to co-sign as he moved in behind her. "Brian, everyone makes errors." I gave them a look. It was this odd far comprehension, not fury. I said. But they're not owned by everyone. There was nothing more from them. Soon after I departed, Grandma gave me a hug before I did, saying you were the first to return. That is important. Since that was real, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. Despite everything, I had been the one to show up, listen, and attempt, and the manner in which they behaved and presented themselves. As like I had messed up. And it was them who gladly put up with me. It continued to burn. The dignity they took was never returned. They simply assumed I would be appreciative. Once more, I was able to stand in the room. Here's the problem, though. I no longer required their approval. I didn't support them. Because I didn't want their version of events to be the only one that survived, I was there. Even though they never said it, I knew they had also sensed the shift, which is why I was there. They had witnessed what transpired after I left. They were aware of the price of losing me. Even though they never acknowledged it, they secretly feared it would occur again. Update. So I believed I was finished. I assumed that a strange semi-civil stillness would prevail. Their holiday customs are passive-aggressive. I continued to assemble a selected family from those relatives who genuinely cared. And at graduations and funerals, we'd all simply act like we were all right. Then, however, an unforeseen event occurred. My grandma contacted me 2 months after Thanksgiving to invite me over. Although she seemed composed, I had never heard the tone in her voice before. I'm being serious, not concerned. As if something had changed. That same day, I arrived. She had a mug of tea that had most likely gone cold, and a big envelope in front of her as she sat at the kitchen table. She wasted no time. "I'm altering my will," she declared. "When your parents learn about it, they will go crazy." I believed I had misheard her. After everything she told me, she began to consider who in the family truly showed up for those who gave without keeping score, who attempted to keep the family together, without driving everyone crazy after seeing how things unfolded, not just the lawsuit or the vacation mess, but the years before it. And it seems like she thinks about me a lot. She wasn't completely ignoring my parents. She doesn't do that. However, she was significantly altering the distribution. She said, "I'm not doing it for you," when I informed her she didn't have to do it for me. Since I can see what people are currently made of, I'm doing it for myself. She asked me not to talk. That kind of secret doesn't stay secret. But I tried. At 1:40 in the morning a month later, Jenna called me. "What is the block number?" Naturally, I didn't respond. But I was aware when cousins began texting. Man, what took place? Is it accurate to say that at the end of the week your mom is going crazy? Officially, my parents had gone insane. Grandma's attorney was contacted. They were referred to as Melissa. They used every phone they could find to call me. The final words in the voicemail my dad left me were manipulative and disrespectful. My mom wrote me a lengthy email that was essentially a protracted guilt trip filled with language like, "This is how you repay us after everything we've done for you." However, none of them had truly questioned Grandma about her actions. They had no desire to find out. They wanted to think that I had deceived her, manipulated her, made her turn against them, because to them, that version made more sense than the reality. Perhaps she simply recognized them for what they truly were. I became aware that I was no longer the outsider at that point. Indeed, they were, and they positioned themselves there. Story 3, I was informed that there would be no Christmas. This year, it's too costly. Then I noticed pictures, all of them together matching jammies. The dog received a present as well. Until my sister sent, I remained silent. "You're still able to pay your mother's rent this month," I answered with, naturally. After then, the money was taken out, left a voicemail saying, "Spend time with your real support system," and canceled her credit card. It was 8:12 a.m. when the panic struck. 15 text messages and 34 missed calls. Kindly reply. I was informed that there would be no Christmas, only a text, no call, no family gathering, no conversation. Just, "This year the cost is too much. We're not making much of it. I hope you get it." My mother said something on or around December 3rd. I didn't resist. I didn't even pose any inquiries. I just replied, "Okay," I returned to my day. I made an effort to tell myself it wasn't a huge concern. Perhaps they were having a hard time. For several months, I had been discreetly making up the difference in their rent. They didn't tell anyone else. In September, I gave my sister a loan, which she never mentioned again. Thus, I did assume that things were tight. Still, there was a hollowness about it. "I just stay in, keep it simple," I told myself. Not even a tree was erected by me. There are only lights strung around the window. Even that seemed rushed. I thought I would take the opportunity to unwind and perhaps even reboot. When people inquired, I said I was okay with it. "This year, it will be calm," I repeated myself. Christmas Eve passed. I reheated some spaghetti that was left over. For sentimental reasons, I watched Home Alone. I spent more time scrolling through my phone than I ought to have. No one sent an SMS, not my sister, not my folks. I reasoned that perhaps they were actually accomplishing anything. However, I ignored it. Perhaps it was only dinner. Perhaps they wanted to avoid unpleasant situations and were keeping things simple. I was sitting there half watching TV and half scrolling Instagram when Christmas Day finally arrived. I didn't have any expectations. To be honest, I was only passing the time. I saw it at that moment. Melissa, my cousin, shared a group photo online. Everybody was dressed alike. My parents, my aunt, uncle, sister Melissa, and her brother Jack. Behind them, the dog even wore a small red and green onesie. With heaps of gifts below, the Christmas tree was illuminated. I gazed at the image, wishing I was mistaken. Perhaps it was from the previous year. Then I noticed the 2024 ornament Jack was holding, and the small blackboard with the words "Merry Christmas 2024" written on it on the fireplace. Christmas had not been canceled. I hadn't received an invitation. I scrolled through more pictures, videos of them singing carols, playing games, my mom moving about hot cocoa mugs, and my sister spinning in front of the tree in a boomerang. Everybody was tagged. My aunt sent a happy snapshot of our family's customs. Even for my dad, who doesn't use social media. Caption: They didn't simply leave me out. The reason is that they pretended that I didn't exist. Not one mention, not a single message. I did not make a call. I didn't send an SMS. For hours, I simply sat there, trying to think about what I had done wrong, what the explanation was, and why they couldn't be straightforward. My sister messaged me about noon on the day after Christmas. "I take it that you're still giving your mother this month's rent?" That was it. "No. Hi there. No Christmas cheer. That's all." I spent a lot of time looking at the message. "Yeah," I said, but I didn't transfer the funds. I disabled her card from the joint account, stopped the auto payment, and launched the banking app. I then left a message on my mother's voicemail. "Make time for the people who are most supportive of you. 8:12 a.m. The panic started the next day. My phone kept lighting up. 39 calls were not returned. 17 texts from my sister, father, and mother. There was initial uncertainty in the messaging, then despair, followed by guilt tripping. "Please respond. What's happening? David, don't do this. Can we have a conversation? I apologize. All right, I didn't answer. I walked outdoors, prepared breakfast, and played some music. By midday that same day, something had changed. Jack, my cousin, texted me, "Hey dude, is everything all right? Yesterday I heard some strange things." I took a while to respond. I had no idea what he had been told or from whom. However, Melissa called 5 minutes later. I took it up. She started right away. I said that my mother informed everyone that I would not be attending this year, that I choose to be alone myself for Christmas, that it was too much trauma to handle, and that I needed time apart from the family. Melissa claimed she didn't believe it at first, but they thought perhaps I had actually cut myself off when I failed to show there, and no one spoke of me during the evening. She claimed that each time she asked my mother where I was, she received the same response. This year, David is going it alone. He had no desire to go. That was it. They didn't just leave me out. To make it seem like I left them, they changed the tale. I refrained from venting. I didn't leave. I just told her that I had been informed that this year's Christmas was too costly, that I never received an invitation. While they were over there playing charades and acting as though I didn't exist, I sat by myself and wondered whether I had simply drifted apart from everyone. She didn't say anything. She just murmured, "I'm so sorry," after that, and I took her word for it. Jack messaged me once more at the end of the day. I didn't know. This is FD up. The cousins had not been involved, it turned out. My uncle and aunt were also unaware. My mother informed them that I was out of town and working. To keep me out of the picture, she told lies to everyone. I received a snapshot of the family group conversation from Melissa. They had been summoned out by Jack. Megan had questioned why I hadn't been informed that I wasn't invited. In an attempt to downplay it, my mother said that I had been aloof and irritable and didn't want to participate. I simply observed it as it happened. My phone came back to life the next day, but it wasn't from the cousins. It was my sister and parents this time. They're back to their normal approach, false worry. You are loved by us. This is only a miscommunication. This has to be fixed. We still consider you our son. Let's not ruin a family over a single error. I didn't respond. I wasn't finished yet. I had a few weeks till my birthday. January 19th. I had previously made a reservation for myself. Now, however, the concept began to take shape. Not only a journey, a declaration. I upgraded my ticket to Hawaii and rearranged my plans. I then purchased 3 more, one each for my Aunt Jack and Melissa. I messaged every one of them. Do you want to enjoy my birthday outside my reward? This year, I believe we deserve better. They all instantly answered yes. I gave them a condition. Don't tell my parents about it until the day before our departure. Melissa questioned my certainty. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I said. This was going to make an impression and signal the start of something new. Before starting the last step, I waited until January 17th, 2 days before my birthday. I was prepared to inform Melissa, so I sent them a message that morning. Rather than messaging, she gave me a call. She wanted to be certain. Do you really want me to let them know that you're taking us out on a plane? Yes, I did say that, but don't bring it up. Be informal, sincere. She understood. I'll do it after lunch, she said. After that, I took a walk. I didn't want to spend all of my time on my phone, but when I returned, Melissa had already missed 3 calls and we had exchanged 1 message. Whoa! She initially sent screenshots from the group chat she was in with my sister, parents, and mom. Just a straightforward message. Hey, just letting you know, to celebrate David's birthday, Jack, Rachel, and I are taking a plane to Hawaii. He sent us an invitation some time ago. Extremely enthusiastic. It should be an amazing journey. Nothing dramatic or significant. My sister was the first to respond. Hold on, what next, my mother? We heard nothing from him. He planned this when Melissa gently responded. After Christmas, he made the reservation. It's only a little vacation for his birthday. This year, he decided to try something new. Then the change began. We had the option to go as well. What kept him from telling us? His birthdays have never been missed by us. To be honest, this looks a bit frigid. My dad then added his voice. We are still welcome. Today we will schedule a flight. After asking what hotel we were staying at, Melissa informed me they went into a tailspin. When it was just me sitting by myself in my apartment on Christmas, they didn't give a damn about the airline, the timetable, or any of the other things. My mother sent me a note later that night. We would also want to see Hawaii. We haven't had a true family vacation in far too long. Tell us about the specifics. We'll work things out. From my sister after that. That you invited them is awesome. I take it that we're all okay now. They were still unable to grasp it. I took my time typing the response. No feeling, just the facts. The cost of purchasing tickets for you was high. Purchase. I didn't say anything more. We took a flight the next morning. Jack, Melissa, Rachel, and me. At the airport, the four of us were waiting in line. As if we've done this 100 times. As a prank, Melissa purchased matching Hawaiian shirts. Jack had a throwaway camera with him. My aunt brought a table-sized beach hat. That flight made me giggle more than I had in months. The resort was located directly on the shore. Balconies in the rooms, air from the ocean, real tranquility. The sort where, without even realizing it, you've been uptight for a long time. We didn't discuss Christmas much. When we did, it was only minor details. Melissa expressed her amazement at how they used the entire scenario to give the impression that I had abandoned them. Jack claimed that everything suddenly made sense, the strange atmosphere at Christmas, and the fact that nobody called my name. Even still, my birthday passed without any tension, phony grins or strange vibe. We ate supper on the beach after hiking to a waterfall. Jack toasted with an unpronounceable drink. Melissa picked up some sand from the beach that morning and handed it to me in a little container. It was flawless. My parents made another attempt at home. The pictures must have been seen by them. Melissa sent a group photo of us all wearing Hawaiian shirts behind the birthday bash banner. It wasn't until the very final day that I posted anything. Just a single picture of me standing on the rocks with the waves roaring in the background. Caption: not every household is selected. Some simply appear. The days that followed were calm. The guilt machine then restarted. My mother left me a voicemail. Please, David, this is not how we should manage our error. My sister sent me a note. It's a bit theatrical of you. My dad even wrote me a lengthy email expressing how much he missed me and how imperfect family is. But that's all we have. I didn't answer. I had already bid them farewell. They were unaware that the cousins were more than simply the vacation group. Since group chat, we have been communicating daily and exchanging dumb memes, making travel plans for the first time. I had the impression that my family didn't take me for granted, and the quiet of all the gifts that was the greatest. It was dreary and chilly when we returned home. After such a journey, January always strikes hard. I didn't care this time, though. Something had changed within me. A settlement was reached. As if I had just shut the door. Years ago, that ought to have been closed. It was quiet for the first 3 days back. No texts, no calls. They must have been regrouping, or simply acting as though they didn't give a damn. The speed at which they changed gears was amusing. The postings followed. With a message about wine, my mom posted a photo of herself and my dad seated at the kitchen table. The finest holidays are staycations. My sister shared a tale about having ice cream on the couch a few hours later. Calm atmosphere at home. Costly flights. I didn't flinch at all. Everything was extremely clear. The tone shifted once more over the weekend. Mom sent me an SMS. I hope your birthday was enjoyable. You were on our mind. My sister continued, let's move on from this. We remain family. And they completely abandoned the act by Monday morning. David, we must speak. Right now things are tight. As if nothing had ever occurred. I was meant to return to my previous job as a fixer and provider, David, who kept the lights on and the refrigerator stocked while they played happy family without me. It took me a few days to respond. I then sent them $1,000 for the final time. Just the money. No call, no explanation. An hour later, I received 5 consecutive messages from my mother. Many thanks. You have no idea how helpful this is. We truly appreciate it. What a wonderful son you are. You're a blessing to us. I remained silent in response. I was aware of what would happen next. After a week, they made another attempt. Our grocery supply is depleted. This month, I could need some assistance, only till things settle down. However, each time they made contact, I declined. Not impolitely, simply put, plainly. No, not now. I am unable to accomplish it. I hope you managed to solve it. Initially, they attempted guilt once again, followed by wrath quiet and guilt once more. They eventually gave up trying. I realized then that the retaliation was finished. They eventually realized that I was no longer theirs to control, not because I had harmed them or because I wanted to watch them suffer. I was purchased with those $1,000. Calm, make a clean break, no more acting like you're someone you're not. Don't continue to show up for folks who only remember you when you can help them. I no longer question whether I'm being utilized when I wake up. I spend more time with my cousins. We are planning a trip to a peaceful location in the spring. This time, perhaps the mountains. What about Christmas? Well, I've made up my mind already. I'm going to cook next year. Bring the cousins over, make a fire, take in a film. No pajamas that match. Don't pretend to grin, just actual folks, the ones who arrived. Things were calm by February. No more requests, no more excuses. They seemed to have finally come to terms with the fact that the money was not coming, that I would not be arriving. It was also unreal. I began to relish the silence. It wasn't until they weren't there that I realized how loud they had been in my life. There wouldn't be a small emergency waiting in my email when I woke up. My sister didn't send any passive-aggressive texts, no sympathy ploys from my mother. But curiosity is always piqued by tranquility. The second week of March, roughly. Melissa unexpectedly gave me a call. Have you not looked at your mother's Facebook page? I hadn't. After the trip to Hawaii, I stopped following the most of them. I stared though since she sounded strange. My mother wrote a lengthy, dramatic piece about losing contact with a loved one in a public post called Classica. Life is too brief to harbor resentment, and how she continues to offer up prayers for him each night. Church friends and relatives we seldom spoke to left their customary remarks giving condolences, prayers, and hugs. However, it was the comment made by a man called Craig that drew my attention. Perhaps he's simply sick of being exploited. Melissa also let out a sigh. Who is that? I clicked on his profile without knowing. My dad was the only buddy we had in common. It was a colleague, somebody from the bar perhaps. My father used to attend. In any case, that person wasn't supposed to be embroiled in family conflicts. How did he know then? That made me pause and reflect. Perhaps there had been a comment. Perhaps people began to piece things together. Or perhaps my dad made a mistake. Jack sent me a mail 2 days later. Karen was just at the store. She had an odd appearance. Said that she didn't believe you would still be angry. After that, they mentioned keeping things within the family. Do you have any knowledge about that? That sentence stayed with me. Preserving family property. I began to wonder just what they were telling the others. The outside circle, not just the cousins. The ones who listened to awkward reunions, family picnics, and whispers. So I began making informal inquiries. A few messages. It began to surface when a few queries were inserted into talks. My mom apparently told others that I was having emotional problems, and I abruptly cut them off, letting them know that they were devastated, but attempting to give me space. My dad even confided in someone that I was isolating myself and struggling in relationships. They gave the impression that I was the one who broke, making me seem unstable, as though they were only attempting to maintain their composure as devoted parents. I wasn't upset about it. Knowing what was coming next just sharpened me. They had not finished. They were only getting their bearings, preparing a rewritten narrative in which they become the victims. They may pretend they chose the high road, but I'm crawling back. They believed that the game I was playing was still the same. They were unaware that I had stopped playing, and I made the final move. The quiet was disrupted by April, through an envelope, not a phone call or message. One Friday, it was in my mailbox when I arrived home from work, written by hand, no address for return. It was written by my mother. There was a folded letter inside, 2 pages. Without reading anything, I nearly tossed it away. However, I didn't. I read every phrase while standing at the door. It was a well-crafted apology, the type that makes extensive use of. Rather of saying, "I'm sorry I did say. I'm sorry you felt." "They miss me," she said. "That family should always reconcile. Even if they may have erred, they never lost their love for me." There was a line at the bottom that was twice highlighted. "Each of us depends on the others. Remember the people who supported you before you had anything." That was it. I knew precisely who was there, and that one statement was the flip switch. I recalled my final year in college when I was the one who was unable to pay the rent. My mother declined to assist, argued that it would create a negative precedent. I recalled how 2 years prior I used my funds to fix my dad's car in order to get him to quit his job, and he never reimbursed me. The year I spent Christmas recuperating from surgery, I recalled how they abandoned me. However, I also recalled who did appear. Melissa with a phone charger and soup, Jack who spent 6 hours in the hospital waiting area for no apparent reason, and Rachel who, like clockwork, checked in on me every day. They were not my fallback relatives. They were my relatives. I decided as a result. I threw a dinner party at my house that weekend. Only my aunt and the cousins. We swapped tales, laughed, and cooked. I repaired an old record player and handed it to Jack. Melissa brought a ludicrous pineapple-shaped cake. Additionally, Rachel packed a folder filled with pictures from her Hawaii vacation. I made a request of them all. The next time my parents get in touch, tell them we're doing all right. I also expressed my gratitude for the letter. They concurred. Not a drama, just the facts. My sister texted me once again a week later. "You're doing great, Mom says. She is relieved that things are back to normal. Would you be able to assist her with the insurance payment claims to be having a lot of difficulties?" "I can't," I said. I then sent another message. The final message I had ever sent her. "I've already given everything I could tell Mom. I found closure with 1,000. She didn't answer. Nobody did. That was the end of the matter. They ceased to inquire. They ceased telling tales. Perhaps because they understood that the game was done. Or perhaps because the individuals they had been controlling began to see through the ruse. Sometimes a joyful reunion or a tender moment of understanding isn't enough to bring about peace. Peace can occasionally be found when you leave and no one follows. And I received just that. Checkmate. I thus believed that everything was at last behind me. I didn't communicate with my sister or parents. I was closer than ever to the cousins, and my life truly felt like mine for the first time in years. Then last Thursday, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. A local area code was used, so I replied. It was Mr. Hodges, my parents' neighbor. It had been at least 2 years since we last spoke. "David, hello. I apologize for disturbing you. I wanted to make sure. How are your parents doing? I haven't seen them very much. Additionally, a moving truck has been outside for the past 2 days. I didn't know what he was discussing. I then inquired as to his meaning. They appear to be packing up. I assumed you were assisting them with a relocation or something." "I am not," I informed him. He just responded, "And I'm sorry for any confusion." He hung up after that. For some minutes, I sat there perplexed. I then displayed the local real estate listings. I was just curious. And there it was. Their house wasn't simply advertised, it was for sale. It had a pending mark already. I had not been informed. Nothing. I wasn't upset. More than anything, I'm inquisitive. I had no idea they were considering moving. But what really grabbed me? The pictures from the listing. To view the interior, I clicked through them. A large framed picture from a family Christmas 4 years prior was displayed on the wall of the living room. It included me, in the forefront, grinning. Even cherished by the same family for decades, was included in the description beneath the item. Full with family memories, love and tradition. I burst out laughing. My face was being used to promote their ideal family home by the same family that had attempted to delete me a few months prior. I kept quiet around them. Jack returned the listing after I submitted it to him. "I had no idea you were a prop for real estate." Melissa made a joke. "Are royalties paid to us?" But here's the twist. I received an email from a law firm 2 days later. Not from my folks, not from their real estate agent. From an attorney. I was on their list of references for the buyer. Yes. Evidently, they wanted a family link to attest to the neighborhood and were attempting to persuade the new owners that they were selling because they were downsizing for retirement. My name was therefore dropped. Despite the email, I didn't respond. Rather, I phoned the office and respectfully requested to be taken out of the situation. Despite appearing perplexed, the assistant promised to make the note. Since then, there has been silence once more. No fresh messages, no justifications. I have no idea where they're going. I have no idea why. Perhaps they were finally caught up by money. Perhaps the web of tales began to fall apart. Here's the surprising bit, though. I have no feelings of contentment or resentment. I didn't imagine I'd find that type of tranquility. They're going on. I am too. The only distinction is that I'm not acting.